Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Printiverse. Thanks for coming. Really appreciate it. For our I just want to let everyone know who just walked in. There's coffee, tea, and snacks, courtesy of Domtar and Blue Line. Thank you very much, V. Thank you. Thank you, everybody over there. And also, the Paper and Packaging Board has donated the coffee sleeves. So, you can donate something next time, Phil. This is a very interesting panel. This is one of the panels I consider the give back panels at the show. This is a panel, these people up here are actually industry heroes. These are the people who are protecting and perpetuating the prosperity of print and paper. These are the print and paper champions. They're the one who these are the advocates against corporations with the don't print this email, go green, go paperless, all the types of messages that we see that are currently demonizing print and paper as the latest cause du jour, we could say in a way. So I'm Deborah Korn. I'm from Print Media Center. Full disclosure, I do work with Phil Rebell on two sides. I'm part of the marketing committee, and Print Media Center is actually a partner member. It's always my pleasure to help paper and print any way I can. And today we're going to talk about how these organizations are helping us, and we're going to take some questions from the audience. We're going to take questions from the people at home on live stream and on Twitter, and I've also crowdsourced some questions prior to the panels. So these are from the people at home, got them from Print Chat, and I'll let you know who asked those questions. But let's start off really simply with who you are and what you do before we get into what your organizations actually do. So Joan?
All right, I'm Joan Sahlgren.
You need to pull the mic all the way to you. Yeah, okay. Right to your, yeah, it's your mic.
Okay, I'm Joan Sahlgren. I'm with the Paper and Packaging Board. We're a brand new effort pulled together by the manufacturers and importers of paper. It's a 7-year promotional program called Paper and Packaging, How Life Unfolds. I hope by now you've seen some of the commercials on TV. We launched on July 8th. We're across a lot of platforms. You can see us in social media, on a Twitter account, Facebook. It's an integrated marketing campaign. We're also running in pre-roll digital year-round. We're running in self-select players like on Hulu. So if you choose your media and watch your TV in a little more unconventional way than prime time, you can find our commercials there. We're also in outdoor advertising, and we have a full print campaign. So as we go forward, we're charged with the effort to slow the decline of paper and increase the demand for packaging. So as a USDA chartered organization, for the next 7 years, we'll be focusing on that mission and trying to help out our partners in print and paper and this whole world of tactile value that we have with these products and the innovations that packaging offers, and try to shore up that messaging with an umbrella of positivity throughout the industry. So that's our mission.
Thank you. Phil?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Phil Rebell. I'm president of Two Sides North America. We're a global nonprofit, and we promote the sustainability of print and paper. And I'll be talking a little bit more about our activities in the next half hour.
Thank you. Mr. Maloney?
Hi, I'm Marty Maloney. I'm with the Printing Industry Alliance, which is the New York, New Jersey, and a part of...
Can you speak into the microphone, please?
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
And I am actually new to the PIA, but I've been in the printing and paper business in my entire life, and I have a marketing agency called Broadford Maloney, and it's kind of interesting that I'm sitting next to Phil, because I was the first executive director of the Print Council and one of the founders, and it was nice that Two Sides came and picked up the slack and took it over. So we are, as part of the PIA, we are an advocate. We do an awful lot in Washington and other places, and I'll let my partner to my left, I'm New York, and here's the West Coast.
Yeah, we'll get into what the organizations do in a moment.
My name is Bob Lindgren, the president of Printing Industry Association of Southern California. Our involvement, of course, we are focused on serving the needs of our 1,100 member firms, generally in the LA metro area. But about 6 years ago, we came to realize that the print market was being destroyed by, A, people who thought that paper was destroying the planet, and that we ought to save trees and save everything else by not using paper. And it was also being destroyed by the fact, the perception, particularly among marketers, that print was that 15th century thing, and that the cutting edge was things like the internet. Even television was kind of old hat. And we realized that, A, that was a very bad message for us, but more importantly, it was an incorrect message on both fronts. And so we have spent the last 5 or 6 years and more than $300,000 dealing with that through Choose Print, our organization devoted nationally to support the printing industry.
Thank you very much. Okay, Joan, how does your organization protect and perpetuate the prosperity of print and paper? And more importantly, how can people get involved?
Oh, thank you, Deborah. That's a tongue twister.
It is. Thank you,
Perpetuating
Sandy.
and protecting paper and packaging and the future of print. With our promotional campaign, our goal is to slow the decline in paper and increase the demand for packaging, which means we're providing a marketing umbrella for all of us to have conversations.
Wait, I'm sorry. Slow the decline of paper. Oh, slow the decline of paper. I'm sorry.
Slow the decline of paper.
Okay, I was confused there for a second. Okay.
Yeah, so as paper has been challenged, as we all know, when we work in printing and graphics and paper, buying paper has become a challenge and the consumption has gone down. So our marketing campaign is designed to increase the demand for these products that we all value so much and let the consumer have a say. You know, a lot of us in the industry speak business to each other about our products, and we hope that we can sell more, right? So we're speaking directly in a business to business campaign that's designed to talk directly to the consumer. So business to consumer, creating that demand at that level and educating the consumer that having something to hold in their hands is valuable, and they shouldn't feel bad or feel like it's wasteful to hold on to something that might mean something or create something on paper. It's valuable, it's important in their lives, and paper just doesn't tell the story of our lives, it's a character in our lives. You know, it's a diploma, it's a sentimental card. Today, actually, if you've been on social media, you know it's Grandparents' Day. You know, you can send your grandparents a card, and those are crossovers that give these functions meaning. They have tactile, sentimental value to our consumers.
And how can people get involved with your organization, and what can they do to help? And also, I don't know if anyone has seen these commercials, but I'm not happy about the one with the little kid in the paper airplane. It made me cry, and I felt really crazy that I was crying over a YouTube video, but I was bawling my eyes out.
Yeah, well, we're happy about that.
I'm glad, because it worked.
Our campaign is cross-platform, so you can get involved throughout any social media. We opened in LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. The handles are How Life Unfolds. If you aggregate us with a hashtag at How Life Unfolds, we'll find you and you'll find us. We just opened this week in Instagram and Pinterest, so they're much more visual properties. And it took us a little while to build that visual library for the consumers and get people to share back with us. So it was very exciting for us when consumers started to share their stories of paper and packaging back with us across our platforms. Pictures of kids making something out of a cardboard box, pictures of friendship notes that meant a lot to people. So we're starting to see that two-way engagement with our consumers now, and it really means a lot to us because it means not only is the campaign awareness building, but the campaign impact is building and engagement, and that's really measurable to us.
Phil? Should I repeat the question?
No, thanks. I remember it.
Thanks, Phil. You're Canadian, so I'm just checking.
So again, our main goal is to promote the sustainability of print and paper. And when I say that, I mean mainly the social and environmental benefits of the products we make. And we do that in a few different ways. Number one is we provide science-based information to show that print and paper can be a sustainable way to communicate. So we have a wide range of marketing materials, whether they are fact sheets, brochures. We have a Myths and Facts series, which is very popular, infographics, videos, and we make those available to our whole network. And our member companies are also able to co-brand those. So our website and our booth over here has a ton of the tools that we provide. We also give webinars. So there's the educational and marketing aspect, and then the other side is to challenge companies that send anti-paper messaging. We call it our anti-greenwash campaign. And so to date, we have worked with over 30 companies, Fortune 100 companies, mainly banks, utilities, telecoms, and convinced them to remove anti-paper messages from both their print campaigns and their online campaigns. And these are the Go Green, Go Paperless, Save a Tree claims. And we've had some a great success on that campaign, and it's ongoing. We're in discussion with over 63 companies right now to do this, and these are large U.S. Telecoms, banks, and utilities. So those two campaigns really regroup a lot of the work we do. And the way to get involved with Two Sides is obviously join us on our social media channels, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, but more importantly, join us as a member company, because without our members who pay an annual membership fee, we don't exist. So if you're under 10 million in revenues, it's $250 per year, which seems to be a reasonable fee for a lot of the small businesses, and then it goes up by there. There's a formula based on revenue, but that's the best way to get engaged and support us. Thank you.
And Phil, you do, I know that, part of Two Sides doesn't want to come out and necessarily say all the companies that you have worked with, but a few have allowed you to use them, one of them being Sprint. Maybe you can tell a little bit about that story, since they actually wrote a whole article about it.
Yes. Thank you, Deborah.
You're welcome.
Deborah knows Two Sides better than I do. We've been working with some big companies, Sprint being one of them, and Sprint allowed us to interview them on the business value of paper in their operations, and we published an article. They also provide some great testimonials that we're using in our messaging. We've got other banks, and they are Citibank, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, that we've developed some really good relationships with. So they're large companies, and when we can get them to change the message, the negative message reaches less consumers and influences much less of the perception of people around paper. So that's a successful campaign for us, and I hope it continues going that way.
So I guess I just want to interject one more thing. For $250 for your company basically saves millions of people from getting Go Green, Go Paperless on their statements. I think that's a pretty worthwhile investment for any print company out there. So consider it. Contact Phil. And Mr. Maloney, you're actually advocating right now against the recent SEC mandate. And perhaps you can tell us a little bit about that, what's going on there, and what your organization is doing to help stop that.
Deborah knows more about everything than all of us do, but that's interesting that you're on top of that. Before I do that, Deborah, I just want to piggyback on Phil for 1 second. Phil, I'm going to give him some information that he'll find useful.
I'm sorry, can everyone hear Mr. Maloney? If they can't hear you, sir, if you could just move it a little closer.
Can hear? How's that? Okay.
Perfect.
So I have a daughter who's a big mucky-muck at a large bank. I'll put it this way. I won't name the bank, but I'll say one of the top 2 in the world. And we're having a conversation, and she knows that I was involved in the print council. She knows that I'm very involved in paper and print. And she says to me, and I kept talking about how, got to get rid of these people who say save a tree. And she says, yeah, we did that. And as a matter of fact, there's about 10 people who work for me that were trying to find something to do because that's what they worked on. And now they're sitting there doing nothing. So, Phil, you have a clear win there. And I'll tell you privately who it is. But on our side, we are advocates. We do a lot of it through Washington. And there was a big fly-in recently where we were involved with the NPES, PIA, and EPICOM as well came in this year. And we sit with all the senators that we can, with congressmen. We meet with the postmaster and so forth. And we spend a few days in Washington. But one of the big issues is people like the SEC and other financial organizations saying it's no longer necessary to put everything on print. If you belong to a mutual fund, hey, you just look at it online. People just throw away the stuff in print. It's a firm belief that, and I think it's fairly proven, that you may not read what you get cover to cover, but if you're interested in a little subject or a little part of it, you can flip through and get to it. If you go online and try to flip through, people just it's daunting. They don't do it to begin with. There are other organizations, other industries besides the SEC. The pharmaceutical industry is now saying that the information that goes to doctors can be online now. We don't have to provide them with any written detail or instruction. Pretty soon, our grandparents are going to have a situation. People in their 70s and 80s are going to say, "Don't worry about it. Just look up online, and you'll find out what the side effects of the medicine." We know that's not going to work very well. So I think it's educational, it's pharmaceutical, financial. There's a lot of areas it just does not make sense. The internet is very powerful, and it does a lot of things very well, and it does some things better than print. There are a lot of things it does not do better. So we fight pretty strongly, and it's a PI effort in general. We do have we share somebody in Washington. There's an office, and we do lobbying, basically, but lobbying for the benefit of the industry.
And, sir, how can people get involved with your organization?
Again, membership, it's very, we're probably a little more expensive than $200, but it's still a few $100s. I think if you were 300, 400, if R.R. Donnelly joined, it would be $5,000 or something like that. There's a ceiling for our, so we have a lot of members, and that money gets used wisely to things, like I mentioned, for the lobbying against the legislators.
Thank you. Mr. Lindgren?
Yes, as I said earlier, our focus at Choose Print, when we began that process, we said we in the printing industry are threatened by people who say that we're destroying the planet, which is nonsense, because if you take the position that using paper is destroying the planet, then stop eating your bread or Wheaties because you're destroying wheat plants. Well, we're doing the same thing. We're consuming trees that are grown as a crop and consume only the energy of the sun. But more significantly, in our view, the threat was to commercial printers particularly, that people who were making marketing decisions, making decisions about how they were going to spend their bucks, thought of print increasingly as that 15th century thing. That's something in historical. That's something we don't do anymore. We're all on the internet. That's where it's at. And what that missed was the neat part about the internet, the neat part about sending emails is I can send emails to everyone on earth for practically nothing. That's the good news. The bad news is hardly anyone will ever see them. And so that's just lost motion. I can have an absolutely wonderful website. The problem is it doesn't reach out and touch you unless you reach out and touch it. You have to know that it's there. I have to get attention. If I want to sell a product or service, I have to get attention. I have to reach out and touch you. And we in print can do that. We can do it by graphics that are pointed to your interest and attract your attention. We can do it by doing direct mail campaigns that are pointed not to 100,000 people, most of whom don't care about what I'm talking about, but to a narrow set of people who will care about what I'm talking about. Those are unique capabilities that we have and we can exploit. And that's what we were trying to get across. And of course, we sort of knew that, so we didn't have to tell it to ourselves. But the people we wanted to tell it to were people who are marketing decision makers. So we focused print, Choose Print, that campaign, which is continuing and ongoing, on people who are making marketing decisions. Took the form of a multi-100,000 piece direct mail campaign, directed at ad agencies and graphic designers all across the United States. It takes the form of advertising in all of the graphic design magazines in the United States. We exhibit, and if you're here, and since you're all here, at least in the room, are here at Graph Expo, I urge you to go across the hall to booth 148, and you will see us at Choose Print there and see all the things that we do. And we exhibit at the Howe Conference, which is the major conference for graphic designers, and we have a tremendous interest in those people in what we're talking about. We have the key to this campaign is encompassed in our website, chooseprint.org. And at Choose Print, you can see an enormous range of resources which we keep changing and adding. A lot of it, frankly, comes from efforts that began first with the print console and with the material that is now continually updated at RIT. We have all of that material on the website, and additionally material. We have, remember the direct mail campaign, and you'll see examples when you go over to our booth. The direct mail campaign that I talked about, the individual printer, can go to our website and lift the artwork for that campaign, modify it to put your name on it, and do your own direct mail campaign to your customers, pointing out the value of print. Even neater, we have a whole series of videos, YouTube videos on the website, of people talking about the effectiveness in print in their business. As an example, there is a video from a Kaiser person explaining how they use print in terms of explaining what they do, their health programs, to their members and potential members, and why print is essential to that process. And interestingly, we had an example of a printer in the northeastern United States who lifted that video, which is why it's there, and embedded it in their own website, because that's their market, is healthcare. And so they said, oh, this is a really cool way of demonstrating the power of print in that marketplace.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So that's what we're doing.
Thank you. Okay. We did take, as I said, we did take some questions from print chat, and one of them is actually from Venecio, sitting right there, from Damtar. And she wanted to know, how do we keep advocating for print and paper without sounding defensive about it? Would you like to address that? And by the way, they sponsored our coffee today. Thank you again.
So that is a common refrain we hear. We have almost 60 member companies that participate with us with our effort of paper and packaging, how life unfolds. And oftentimes the market does feel a little defensive. We feel like we've been told, oh, you shouldn't use that paper, you shouldn't print that out, you might harm a tree. So we try to come at that problem by being what we call relentlessly positive. We take ourselves out of that defensive mode and we think about, how do people really value these products? How do we use them? So as we developed a marketing campaign, we talked about what audience would be receptive to our message, and we identified about 38 million adults ages 18 to 49 who really use paper and packaging in their daily lives. They value those products and they really feel successful and accomplished when they take a sticky note off the wall, or they take the bill off the counter and they've paid that bill. They feel really good about it, from all ages within that age group. So we try to talk in that vernacular that is positive, and we don't talk about the waste. We talk about the value of paper and having permission to use it and feeling good about it. And that leaves that sort of defensive posturing behind and starts us on a brand new foot with the consumers that we're engaging with.
And I was just cracking up because before I came to Graph Expo, I took all my sticky notes that I had, and I felt complete accomplishment. I was done with everything I needed to do. I put them in the trash, so I can completely relate to that. Phil, how do you address are we being too defensive?
Yeah, part of what we're doing obviously is defensive, but I think if you look at the whole situation, there are aspects of paper that are very positive and that we can focus on. One example would be the economic and social benefits of family-owned forests in the U.S. So in the United States, there are 10 million family forest owners that manage their forests for both forest products and recreational benefits. And connecting consumers to that would be a very important way to highlight that positive aspect and how family forests are critical to our communities and our products. Another aspect is the social benefits of paper. We just did a study this year to bring out consumer perceptions around reading on print or in print versus reading on screens. And it gave us some really great results in terms of preference for print and paper. And none of that stuff is negative at all. It's just the actual fact that people prefer print, especially when it comes to reading complicated materials, long documents, or even just given a preference between digital and print. Most people, even the younger generation, gravitate towards print. So I think more research into those areas, better marketing into those areas is very positive and really doesn't have any negative aspects.
Right. And before I get to Ms. Maloney, I would just like to say that, a lot of times I hear people that, want to propose the argument, paper is better than digital, and they want to go into that whole thing about the carbon stuff of these servers and all that other thing. And, our society is going electronic, and I don't think it's a matter of choosing between the two or making one better than the other. It's just a matter of making sure that the people who are promoting electronic services aren't doing it by creating sharing irresponsible and untrue information about basically their competition, quite frankly. Mr. Maloney?
Yeah, I think obviously the key is being positive, but if it boils down to we're educating, we're making people, there's a lot of misinformation out there, so we're trying to clear it up. We're trying to give people the facts. How do you not sound defensive when you're doing that? I am a professor at NYU in the graduate school, and I'm a media expert, so I do a course called Managing the Media Mix. I probably taught that course 50 times, 50 semesters. Every semester I ask the students who prefers print books, usually, as opposed to a Kindle. What first I do is I take the Kindle out of my briefcase and show them that I know what it is. But I would say 75%, now this is over several years, always come out preferred books, printed books. One young lady summed it up, and she said, I just got a new apartment, and I had a built-in bookcase. And I put my Kindle on the bookcase. It didn't do a thing for it. It still looked there. So books, they can be educational, they can be decorative. But I always tell people that print, in the combination of new media and direct mail, for example, is magic. You can get increased responses up to 15, 20, 30% by including both of those. So there's a lot of soft ways to sell print without excluding everything else. And that's one of the things that I do.
Thank you. Mr. Lindgren?
Well, I was thinking when you asked the question, how do you do this without sounding defensive? That really struck a chord in my mind, because choose print is definitely not defensive. As a matter of fact, that's why it's called choose print. That's an action phrase. And choose print as message is primarily, we're certainly conscious of the fact that we've been victimized by a lot of BS on the subject of environmental issues that are not real. But more significantly, the power of print, that choose print has built itself around explaining, talking, demonstrating the power and the effectiveness of print. That's not defensive, that's offensive. And we think that's absolutely critical. It's absolutely critical that people in our industry get their minds around the power of print and talk to their clients and prospects about what they can do effectively with print that they can't do with anything else. I also can't resist your earlier question that said, what can you do to support your organization? And what you can do to support Choose Print is to go to the website, use our material. We're not asking for money, believe it or not. We're asking you just to take advantage of the resources that we're providing and build your business with them. That would just make us happy as clams.
Thank you, sir. Okay, this is a combination question from Alan Press and Stephanie Gadden from Dolphin Works in Australia. and she wants to know what opposition, they want to know, what opposition do you run into most frequently when promoting paper and print? And what are the best practices to responding to challenges, including do not print this email and things of that nature? Would you like to start, Joan, or? Yeah.
I will, or
Yeah.
you want to start with repeat the first question, Deborah?
I'm sorry. What do you run into most frequently, opposition-wise, when promoting paper and print?
Got it. Yes, that's where I was with you. We hear a lot. The previous question, do we have to choose digital or do we have to choose paper? Do we have to choose between the two? The Paper and Packaging Board has done a back-to-school report where it showed just what my colleagues were saying, that people feel good about choosing paper, books, printed material, tactile learning in an educational situation, and we have a couple of experts lined up that we've used on our website to support that message. So I think the perception that digital is coming and it's going to trample over us and it's going to take over is one of the questions that this campaign is uniquely designed to address, because it does talk about the value and the worth of paper and packaging in our lives, and that in itself is valuable because people haven't heard that message in a while, and just to hear that they're making a good choice and empower consumers with that message is really a positive message for them.
So, Phil, does Two Sides have an official policy on how to respond to do not print this email and save the environment and all that stuff? And is it true, first of all?
We have a very systematic approach where we've got 5 or 6 reasons that outline why that's a misleading statement. So let's just take the Save a Tree claim. The Save a Tree claim is both misleading and false because in many areas of the world, even though paper is in decline, the same number of trees or more are being harvested, and those trees are going into other products, whether it's lumber, biomass, pulp for textiles. So you could have certain regions of the U.S., the southern U.S. being one, where the paper use has been declining, paper production, I should say, has been declining steadily for the last 10 years, but we're still harvesting the same amount of wood volume. It's just going into different products. So the whole Save a Tree and going paperless thing, it just doesn't work, because the statistics indicate that we're still harvesting wood. It's a renewable resource. If it's not going to go into paper, it's going to go into other products. To answer your first question, the biggest obstacle we have is the fact that corporate marketers don't understand sustainable forestry, and they don't understand the life cycle of our products. They don't know how paper is made from A to Z, and that is what we do. We educate them on the life cycle of our products and what sustainable forestry means. And in fact, the best success we've had with corporations is when we're in discussions with their sustainability people or their environmental people, because in most cases they get the message, and then internally they will educate their marketing departments, who are just kind of running with these slogans because it's the marketing thing to do, right?
Right.
So we have had really good luck talking to some of these corporate sustainability folks, and they've helped us educate their own people.
Oh, you good?
Sometimes you have to take a different tack. I was down in a senator's office in Washington in March, and it was me and an audience of about 25 people. There was only one senator and his staff, and the staff was numerous. They were all about 20, 30 something, and somebody basically came out and attacked the industry by saying, well, how can you possibly cut down trees and whatnot. I started into the systematic approach and the answer and whatnot, and saw that in 30 seconds I was getting absolutely nowhere. So I just stopped cold and I said, it's broccoli. And people looked at me like I had 3 heads. And I said, it's broccoli. They're trees. Bob said wheat. I said, you grow broccoli, and people consume it. You grow trees and people use it for beneficial things, and you make more trees. And in fact, you make more trees than you use. It's the same thing. If you don't replant your broccoli, you go out of business. So nobody's planning to go out of business in the paper business. It was a dumb answer, maybe, not a sophisticated one, but they finally got it. The next day, I'm walking down the hall in the Senate, and one of the guys is going by, and he said, broccoli. So sometimes you got to change it up a little bit.
Thank you. Mr. Lindgren? And then we have time for one more question.
Well, I agree with you. It's broccoli. Our small contribution to that is on all of our emails we have in the tagline it says it's okay to print this email because, and then a brief explanation of why that is. And what's interesting is not only the explanation true, but we've discovered over time, a number of people are intrigued by that and started putting it on their own emails. So that's just an example of how we can help educate people on this silly stuff like don't print your emails in order to save the planet.
Thank you. This question is from Pat Barnum, and it's actually for you, Joan. She referenced it this way, so I'm going to read it exactly as it was asked. The recent Got Milk type campaign, paper campaign, is really cool, but is it reaching more than the industry? And then also as a follow-up to all of the panel, how do we get young people involved in understanding that the myths that are out there? How do we bust those myths? So taking a line from two sides.
All right. The campaign is specifically designed to reach beyond the industry. We don't want to, no longer do we want to preach to the choir and send our salespeople into the fields in a business-to-business situation with some sales materials. This campaign gives them an overarching umbrella messaging of marketing support that's raising the importance of this product in the mind of the consumers, so they can take that message and use it in a sales situation. But the consumers that are reached are in the millions. We're at over 1 million views of our videos. The commercials have been seen, and we're targeting 23 billion impressions, and we're halfway there. So we're really thrilled with the result and the awareness that the campaign has generated so far, and I hope more consumers will find us.
And my mom was on an airplane, and she took a picture of your campaign in the Delta magazine.
Yes.
And I was like, they're in our alliance. She's like, oh my God, that's so cool.
Yes, our media is very targeted.
Yes, it's amazing. And millions are watching these YouTube videos. So if anyone thinks it's just reaching the industry, I'd love to have 1 million people on my website from the print industry. Please come to YouTube for Print Media Center if you're out there, 1 million people.
Yeah.
So, but just as a community member, I want to thank you guys so much. I really believe, we've all been waiting for this campaign, and it's finally here. And like I said, I bawled my eyes out at that kid throwing the paper airplanes.
Sorry.
So thanks so much. Phil, how do we get young people involved in this, and how do we explain to them in a way that they can understand, like a human, that these are myths that are being passed along?
Yeah, good point. Besides the How Life Unfolds campaign, I think we have to get to the teachers, because what's happening in the school system is that teachers are pulling stuff off the web to educate their students, and in many cases they're not going to the right sources. They may be going to some very negative sources regarding the environmental impacts of paper, and that's eventually what the students get. So building it into the curriculum is the way to do it, and that's not an easy thing to do. So what Two Sides has done is partnered with several U.S. colleges and high schools that have print programs, print ed, so either paper science and engineering or graphic communications. And although those students are, on our page, they still help promote the message within their schools and also within the high schools that they are going to recruit people into those programs. So our marketing materials are making it through at least 12 U.S. colleges that are members of Two Sides, and then the high schools that they deal with. So that's one way that we spread our materials to the educational system. And to do it at a bigger scale will require a lot of effort.
Thank you. Mr. Maloney?
Yeah, the response I get from students when I try to bust all the myths, number one, some of them don't believe me. Number two, how is that possible that we've been living this myth for so long? And then you find out where it came from. And it came from some teacher in grammar school, probably around Arbor Day or something like that, that it was, a mortal sin if it was a Catholic school to take a tree and turn it into paper. Sometimes you got to go beyond, and if they understand the general context of things, just in the U.S., there's $300 billion worth of measured media. The biggest one doesn't apply, it's TV. Broadcast by far is large. The second largest one that nobody knows about is direct marketing, over $50 billion, mostly paper-oriented. Third largest one, you're not going to believe, newspapers. Although they did this dive from 50 billion, they're now 37 billion, and they're stable. They're not going anywhere. It's still an unbelievably size. And then you take magazines and on. So the largest percentage of all media today is still print. And I don't think people understand that.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lindgren?
I think that's a really sort of key point. How do you reach younger people? And I also agree that our biggest enemy in that area is those nice school teachers, particularly in elementary schools, that think it's cool to talk to kids about going home and telling mommy and daddy to stop all that direct mail and tear up all the catalogs and all of those things. That's, of course, a continuing challenge. And I think we can make some progress in reaching out and kind of re-educating those people, although it's going to be a long struggle. However, I'll give you one sort of bright note that occurred to me while we're talking about it. One of the things that we are involved with is a rather extensive printing museum in Los Angeles, which is part of our organization. And we started about 3 years ago. We discovered that the Boy Scouts had a printing merit badge, and they also had a paper merit badge that nobody was ever using. And of course, if you have a child who's a Boy Scout who wants to be an Eagle Scout, getting merit badges is like gold. So we started a program that you could spend a Saturday at our museum and get both a printing badge and a paper badge at the same time. And we have now done almost 3,000 Boy Scouts in Southern California.
That's amazing.
And we are now moving on to Girl Scouts this year. But
wonderful.
That's an interesting example of reaching out, and these people and their parents, because their parents come, learn about printing and they learn about paper, and they don't come away with any of these misunderstandings.
That's wonderful. Our panel's definitely over, but before we go, if everyone could just say your website and anything else you want to share so people can get in touch, and then I just want to thank you all very much for the information. It was very informative. I'm a fan of all of you, and I want to thank you as a member of the community for all you do for all of us. Joan?
Thank you. Thank you for having all of us here. We appreciate it, Deborah. The website is howlifeunfolds.com, or you can hashtag howlifeunfolds and you'll find us.
Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity, Deborah. The Two Sides website is twosidesna, as in North America, .org.
And Twitter is at twosidesna.
Yeah, those are all on the website.
This is true.
Yeah.
Thank you, Phil.
Okay.
All right, thank you also, Deborah. Ours, the Printing Industry Alliance, is pialliance.org. And everything is on that website as well.
Thank you.
Thank you all again. And Choose Print, of course, is chooseprint.org, and Twitter is at chooseprint.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Again, thank you to Domtar Blue Line for providing us with the coffee, and to the Paper and Packaging Board for our coffee sleeves. And we have another panel coming up in 15 minutes. Everyone's welcome to hang out, visit the booths of our Alliance members, and thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Oh,